Hi, welcome to the Industry News Group. I'm your host, Adam Walzer,
I'm co-anchorman James Byakusan.
and today we have a lot of exciting events to cover, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
For all you movie fans out there, we're covering the first drive-in movie theater today, so stay tuned. It's going to be real exciting. The first drive-in theater was invented by Richard M. Hollingshed. Hollingshed worked out the details by hanging a sheet for a screen in his backyard. Richard began to experiment in the driveway of his home at 212 Thomas Avenue in New Jersey. Richard mounted a 1928 Kodak projector on the hood of his car, which he used to project onto a screen he had nailed to trees in his backyard. He placed a radio behind the screen for sound, then started the rest of his idea. Richard tested sound with the windows up, down, and halfway. He tested many weather conditions. Using his lawn sprinkler, he simulated a rainstorm. Richard liked what he saw and heard. One main problem did arise in his test. That was, if cars were parked behind each other, how would the cars at the rear be able to see the whole picture without interrupting of the car in front of them? This did not stop Richard. He lined up his cars in a driveway, spacing them at various distances and placing blocks under their front wheels. He was able to find the correct spacing and angles to build ramps for the car's front tires to be parked on. Thus was born the first patent for the drive-in theater.
Up next, we will be discussing one of the greatest actors all the time.
Born Marlon Brando Jr. on April 3, 1924 in Omaha, Nebraska, was an American screen and stage actor. He is best known for bringing a gripping realism to film acting and is widely considered to be one of the greatest and most influential actors of all time. Brando is most famous for his Oscar-winning performances as Terry Molloy in On the Waterfront and Vito Corleone in The Godfather, as well as influential performances in A Streetcar Named Desire and Viva Zapata. He initially gained popularity for recreating the role of Stanley Kowalski in the film A Streetcar Named Desire, adapted from the Tennessee Williams play in which he became recognized as a Broadway star during its 1947 to 1949 stage run, and for his Academy Award-winning performance as Terry Molloy in On the Waterfront. His iconic portrayal of the rebel motorcycle gang leader Johnny Strabler in The Wild One is considered to be one of the most famous images in pop culture. Brando took a long hiatus before appearing in The Missouri Breaks. After this, he was content to be a highly paid character actor in parts that were glorified cameos, such as in Superman and The Formula, before taking a 9-year break from motion pictures. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, Brando was paid a record $3.7 million and 11.75% of the gross profits for 13 days' work playing Jor-El in Superman, further adding to his mystique. He finished out the decade of the 1970s with his controversial performance as Colonel Walter Kurtz in Apocalypse Now, a box office hit for which he was highly paid and helped finance his career layoff in the 1980s. For all you Hangover fans out there, stay tuned. We're going to be discussing how much the film grossed in just 5 days. Final numbers from the worldwide box office show The Hangover, jumping the $200 million mark on Monday to be the fastest of any comedy in history. From Warner Brothers and Legendary Pictures, the rated R sequel grossed $135 million in its 5-day domestic debut and $70.1 million overseas for a total of $205.1 million through Monday. Cheers to Todd Phillips and the Wolfpack, who are back in a big way and who made The Hangover 2 an experience no one will ever forget, Warner Brothers president of domestic distribution Dan Feldman said. In North America, Hangover broke the 3-day, 4-day, and 5-day opening records for a comedy, regardless of the rating. Additionally, the sequel shattered the Memorial Day weekend record and the Friday to Monday holiday record for an R-rated film. For all you movie buffs out there, stay tuned. We're going in on a whole new spin on how to watch films. House of Wax was the first color 3D feature from a major American studio and premiered just 2 days after the Columbia Pictures film Man in the Dark, the first major studio black and white 3D feature. It was also the first 3D film with stereophonic sound to be presented in a regular movie theater. It premiered nationwide on April 10, 1953, and went out for a general release on April 25, 1953. Sometimes less is more, but in this case, nothing is everything. Take a look into one of the greatest silent film actors of all time, Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin was an English actor, comedian, and filmmaker who rose to fame in the silent era. Chaplin became a worldwide icon through his screen persona, The Tramp, and is considered one of the most important figures in the history of the film industry. His career spanned more than 75 years from his childhood in the Victorian era until a year before his death at the age of 88, and encompassed both adulation and controversy. In 1919, Chaplin co-founded the distribution company United Artists, which gave him a complete control over his films. His first feature length was The Kid, which was made in 1921, followed by A Woman in Paris in 1923, as well as The Gold Rush in 1925 and The Circus in 1928. He refused to move to sound films in the 1930s, instead producing City Lights and Modern Times with no dialogue. Chaplin became increasingly political, and his next film, The Great Dictator, satirized Adolf Hitler. The 1940s were a decade marked with controversy for Chaplin, and his popularity declined rapidly. He was accused of communist sympathies, while his involvement in a paternity suit and marriages to much younger women caused scandal. An FBI investigation was opened, and Chaplin was forced to leave the United States and settle in Switzerland. He abandoned the tramp in his later films, which included Monsieur Verdoux, Limelight, A King in New York, and A Countess from Hong Kong. Well, that about sums it up for today's broadcast. We are ING News, and we thank you for tuning in.